Michigan 34, Maryland 27. That was interesting.
We are 8 seconds into this game, and it's 6-0 Michigan.
There were quite a few positives in the game, but also a lot of negatives. First off, Michigan was without Donovan Edwards, Eric All, and Trevor Keegan for this game, so the offense already had its set of challenges before kickoff even happened. Speaking of kickoffs, how about that opening one that bounced off the returner's face mask and Michigan recovered it at the 15-yard line? Michigan's very first play from scrimmage was a touchdown to Luke Schoonmaker, who had himself quite a day. 8 seconds into the game, Michigan was already up 7-0. On Maryland's first drive, they were able to move the ball down the field with a little help from Michigan's face mask on a third down play, and then they kicked a 52-yard field goal. Their kicker has a boot. Michigan answered back with a 51-yard field goal from Money Moody. When's the last time that you saw two college kickers make a 50-plus yard field goal in a game, let alone on their first attempt each? It's probably pretty rare. Then Maryland had a 13-play touchdown drive where Michigan couldn't really get a stop, and that made us realize that this game was going to be a fight. The Wolverines had a pretty good drive going, trying to answer back, and then CJ Stokes fumbled on his first attempt. Michigan was able to regain the lead right before the half when Blake Corum took a 4th-and-1 handoff all the way to the end zone for a 33-yard touchdown. Some first half notes: Michigan's first half shutout streak was over. Taulia Tagovailoa is a damn good quarterback. Maryland's play calling was excellent. On the Michigan side, it looked like the simple solution was just hand the ball to Blake Corum. Maryland could not stop him. He was averaging about 10 yards a carry in the first half. Also, that DJ Turner interception didn't look to be really an interception, so Michigan caught a break on that one. And JJ was a bit erratic, but we'll get into that later. In the second half, Michigan's defense seemed to tighten up a little bit, and also JJ McCarthy showed flashes of why he's the guy. He threw a 20-yard dart to Roman Wilson to put Michigan up 11, and it felt like Michigan was going to kind of take control of the game, but Maryland didn't go away. They drove right back down and scored to get within 5. Then there was a crucial 3rd and 6 play where JJ hit Ronnie Bell on the sidelines to lead to a Jake Moody field goal to put Michigan up by 8. If Michigan would have had to punt right there, I think this game could have gone a little differently. Then on the next drive for Michigan, in a 3rd and 4 situation, Corum takes the handoff and goes 47 yards to the end zone to ice the game. Well, kinda. Maryland put in their backup quarterback, the Red Rifle, and took it right down the field and scored another touchdown, so it all came down to an onside kick, which thankfully Michigan recovered, and that finally did ice it. Final score: Michigan 34, Maryland 27, in a game that was much too close for comfort. I'm about to get into the biggest takeaways from the game, but first let's read off some stats. Maryland had more first downs in this game than Michigan, 23-22. Michigan had more total yards, 463 to 397. Passing yards, Maryland had the edge. Rushing yards, 2 words: Blake Corum. There were very few penalties in this game. Maryland had 15 in their last game, but only 1 in this game against Michigan. For Maryland, Tagovailoa was 20 for 30, 207 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Probably could have been 1, because I don't think that DJ Turner pick was actually an interception. Running the ball, they had a total of 128 yards, and they had 4 receivers with at least 48 yards. Now for the team you care about, JJ McCarthy, 18 for 26 for 220 yards and 2 touchdowns. Blake Corum loaded up the offense on his shoulders, 30 carries, 243 yards. Big game for Luke Schoonmaker, 7 receptions, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Ronnie Bell also had 72 yards, and Roman Wilson had a touchdown in the 4th quarter. On the defensive side of the ball, Junior Colson had 13 total tackles, and Mike Sainer still had a big game with 8 tackles and a sack. Also, Mozzie Smith and Michael Barrett really showed up to stop the run. My top takeaways from this game, and I'm not an insider or an expert, I'm not an X's and O's expert, I'm just a fan who loves Michigan. My top takeaways are: the pass rush is not what it was last year, for sure. Of course, Maryland's offensive line is one of the most experienced units in the Big Ten, so maybe that played a part too. They just couldn't seem to get to the quarterback, especially if they weren't blitzing. I thought Michigan's offensive line looked really good, especially in run blocking. 243 yards for Blake Corum says a lot. And JJ had a pretty good bit of time back there. Another obvious takeaway is that Blake Corum is really, really good at football, but he can't be expected to carry the ball 30 times a game, so Donovan Edwards, please hurry back. Mike Sainer still is everything we'd hoped for and more since switching to the defensive side of the ball. He seemed like he's in on every play out there. With Eric All being out, Luke Schoonmaker seemed to fill in very nicely. Every time that Michigan needed a first down, he seemed to be right there to move the chains. Another takeaway is that Maryland is going to give some teams problems this year. Tagovailoa is a poised quarterback who makes good decisions, good throws. Their running backs are big and bruising. The receivers are really talented. The offensive line seemed pretty solid. And they play Michigan State next, who just lost 34-7 to Minnesota. So good luck, Spartans. Michigan's play calling in this game was kind of confusing at times. They seemed to be really conservative and playing not to lose. When when you run the ball up the middle on 3rd and 5, it's a little puzzling. It also seemed like they didn't really want JJ to run as much. I don't know if those read options were designed as not really read options and JJ didn't have the option to keep, because on a couple of those, it looked like he should have kept. And the biggest takeaway for me is that JJ is going to be a very special quarterback, but there are going to be some growing pains. Now remember, this is the first game he actually had to play all 4 quarters. He was very erratic at times. He held onto the ball too long. There were a couple of fumbles. He was overthrowing receivers down the field. But then you see the glimpses of greatness. The arm talent, the throw to Roman Wilson on that touchdown, the throw that he made to Ronnie Bell down the sidelines on that crucial 3rd down. And then on the play where he did fumble early in the game, the very next play, he has this crazy Kyler Murray-like scramble for a 1st down. So we're just going to have to take the good with the bad. There's a lot of risk with a quarterback like JJ, but the reward is so worth it. Here's something interesting. Blake Corum leads the nation with 9 touchdown runs this season, averaging a touchdown every 7.1 carries. Oh, and he's averaging 7.5 yards a carry so far this season, so please stay healthy, Blake. Here's what JJ McCarthy had to say about Blake Corum. He's one of the most dynamic players in college football. He's just one heck of a player, and I'm so happy he's on my team. One of my favorite things to look at throughout the season is the mood index that M. Victors does. Follow at M. Victors on Twitter if you're not already. They just sort of gauge the fan base of where we are in relation to Michigan football, what we think about the team. So he keeps this running mood index, 90 or above, Big Ten champs are on the brink, 80 to 89, feeling among the best in the Big Ten, 70 to 79, you're in the middle, 60 to 69, not good, 50 to 59, a mess, and under that is basically disaster. As for the week by week, in the preseason we were at 88, after the Colorado State game, a 90, after the Hawaii game, a 92, after the UConn game, it didn't change, and it's actually down to an 89 after the Maryland game. I would still put Michigan at least a 90. I would put my confidence in Michigan at least a 90 because I think Maryland is just better than people thought, including myself. So I'd give Michigan a 90 still. We'll know a lot more about this team after they play Iowa. So make sure you go check out this mood index at mvictors.com. I'll put it down in the description. I'll admit I didn't give Maryland as much credit as I should have. I didn't scout them well enough. I didn't realize exactly how much talent they had on offense. So I'll make sure to not do that in future preview videos. A few streaks ended for Michigan in this game. The streak of not giving up any first half points is over. The streak of scoring 50 plus points in every game is over. And I can't finish this video without shouting out RJ Moten for that awesome interception and throwing on the turnover buffs in a picture that I'm sure will be used in every Michigan game for the rest of this season. Up next for the Wolverines next Saturday at Iowa, noon game, JJ McCarthy's first road start, Michigan's first road game of the season. I'll be doing a preview video on that soon. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, go blue.